Good evening, good evening.
Mike, 40 Mike.
Howdy, howdy.
What's going on, my man?
Happy, belated Marine Corps birthday to you.
Oh, thanks, my dude.
Hope you had a wonderful Veterans Day weekend. I saw somebody post the other day that they had an entire agenda set up. They were like, wake up in the morning, hit Dunks, free donut, Starbucks, free coffee, next place Denny's, whatever they were hooking up with. It was like lunch, Chili's, afternoon snack here, and then finish it up with the OG of the veterans benefits is Applebee's, and it was just kind of funny to see somebody actually print out the schedule of it.
Yeah, some people get really wrapped around the axle about that. I'm like, you know what? If that's how you want to take advantage of Veterans Day, man, that's your choice, man. I mean, go ahead and do that. I mean, I think yours and mine were a bit different, but you wrote the blank check. You had your DD-214. If someplace wants to give me a free donut or 10% off a purchase at Lowe's or something like that, or a free whatever, fine. Yay, because there was a time where that stuff didn't happen at all.
Absolutely. But the big thing is, I'm not a fan of is when guys go in and they demand it. Like, no one should ever be demanding a benefit for a choice that you made with your life.
No, all I'll say is, sometimes I'll ask, if I think they're like veteran friendly, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, I don't ask or demand, but I will if you offer a veterans discount. I'll probably frequent your place of business a lot more than the business that does nothing, or it's one day a year. There's a couple businesses in Abington that if they're kind of on the honor system, but they really like it when you show like your VA card or your military ID, even your old one, right? You got an ID you can show, they got no problem doing it. And to me, if you're willing to do that, I'm gonna frequent your place of business than business B that doesn't. But no, man. I mean, Veterans Day was very busy. I didn't get like free lunch or anything, but it was a busy freaking day, man.
Mm-hmm. For me, the wife wound up getting sick, so we ended up staying home for most of the day.
Well, that happens, and you just gotta grin and bear it. And the
old absolutely
sickness and health.
Was it Semper Gumby?
Semper Gumby.
Yeah.
So.
But no, it's good seeing each year. I've seen more and more local organizations and communities come up with things for the day, whether it's having something at the high school where people will give speeches and talk about it. It's very good to see that stuff happen.
Yeah, I think parades have come and gone as part of the American lexicon, but I do agree with you. I love it. Like some of the Abington high school and grade school kids will get together and they've written a letter to veterans or whatever, and they'll do some other things. I think it's just so powerful and cool to see that these kids are doing that. And I like that kind of stuff where the community can come together and really be part of the day. And they might not understand everything that you and I did, and that's okay. The fact that they're there able to have that kind of life and freedom to do it to me is, makes it all worth it.
Absolutely. And like the best thing, like when I was overseas, was getting those packages from the different groups, whether it was a class or it was a youth group or a church group would send stuff over, and like getting those letters from the kids, not really knowing what they were saying all the time, but to be able to see that it's genuine, heartfelt care from somebody that you may have never met, just knowing through a connection that you had back home.
Right, right, right. So, I mean, it's good. I like the aspect of Veterans Day. I like the fact that, it's really cool to see the young people into it. When I say young people, like, you know, 15 and below, and they're doing it. And I love seeing the old veterans come out. Abington has one that served in the Korean War. He had his blues on, and he was like, "Semper Fi, Marine." I'm like, oh, it just gets you going. And the old Army guys out there, cranky and whatever, like old Army guys get. It's just really, really cool. So it was a good Veterans Day. I got to see some other veterans in different places, and it was very busy, man, in a good way, in a good way. So that's me. Marine Corps birthday was cool. I did the Marine Corps birthday for you, Mike, in a church. First time ever.
Really?
Yep, yep. So when I was in First Land Battalion, I was in Charlie Battery. There's she got out as a major, but she was a second lieutenant at the time. Who served in Alpha Battery, and we saw each other at the armory and other things. Or they'd come down. How officers will, one will suspect the other one's platoon, all that kind of good jazz. And I remembered her, and it was cool having another Hawker, to spend the time with, and a major at that. So that was good. And the church was cool. And the reason I say that is because the church really wanted, they were doing like their Veterans Day service, whatever, man. And the minister was a 20-year, Navy guy.
Was he a chaplain?
He wasn't a chaplain. He wasn't a chaplain. He was just serving the Navy for 20 years, got out, became a chaplain, a minister, and
That's
ministered to
awesome.
his school. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But they put a real emphasis on Veterans Day and why the church should support and celebrate veterans. I'm like, dang, this is pretty cool. I don't remember, and all the times I went to church that, Memorial Day or Veterans Day was ever talked about, really. So it's just really
I've never
cool.
seen it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so I was really, grateful for that. And so now we're talking, man, what's on your mind tonight?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
One of the big things is I want to just reach out, and if anybody out there uh, is been or has been a patient of MGH Red Sox Foundation home base program, I'm doing a little research into what they've been doing for care and some changes that are coming down the pipeline. And I want to make sure that guys aren't getting lost in the shuffle. So I just want to make sure the care that I'm seeing and the things that are happening across the board and aren't just happening to particular patients in particular. So anybody that out there that's if you're a member or patient of home base, I don't need to know the particulars. That's your HIPAA is your thing. What you talk about with your doc is whatever you do. But if you have been a patient there or are currently a patient there, and just want to know if you're receiving the care that you should be, because prior, the VA, it was really tough getting care for mental health at the VA. And over the last 5 to 10 years, I've seen a real big improvement in the mental health services, provided for, at the VA, and having the PTSD clinic run out of the Boston VA, that also sorts of, helps out, the programs that they have there in particular at the Boston campuses. And I just want to make sure that, the care at other organizations is living up to the promise that they're making, because you and I, as we have people come up to us and ask us for referrals for organizations or for care or for help somewhere, I want to be able to fully give my blessing to something and give my blessing to an organization. Say, hey, if I send you here, I know you're going to get the help that you need and the care that I would give you myself.
Well, it's very important, man. Some of these organizations, like the Commonwealth of Mass, gave them a substantial amount of money to provide care for veterans. They're running as of 2022, according to financials, they took in almost $24 million. So you just want to keep your pulse on that, and in some cases the VA is improving. I mean, it took them a while, I'm not going to lie, but they are trying to improve with what they're offering now. So, the word's important, and I think you're right. If someone comes up to you or someone comes up to me, we got to know that if we send somebody somewhere, that it's actually going to benefit them, and that org is really committed to their health and well-being and successful outcomes. So it never hurts to ask. I mean, because right, I mean, Mike, I mean, you've held a nonprofit, right? And the buck stops with you. And anybody can come up to you and say, hey, when you're doing it, right? How's the money being spent? And you've got to attest to that, right? And
Yep.
if everything's cool, it's no problem. So, I don't think it's a bad thing to ask, whether the org is big or small, because
It's almost like what happened with Wounded Warrior Project several years back. That things got out of control there, and money was being spent on the marketing and the admin versus the actual care for the patients and the veterans. So they made some big overhauls after being called out on it, and we just we want to make sure that this organization that, like you said, came in with $23 million, and a lot of people, locally, do a lot of fundraising for this
Yep.
organization. They've got the Run to Home Base program where you get to do a 5K around the Boston area and get your picture finished at Fenway Park on home plate. That's a really cool event, and a lot of individuals do that, and I think it's got like maybe like 1,000 to a 1,500 uh, fee usually that participants have to fundraise to do it.
It ain't cheap. Like if you're gonna have
No.
that experience with them, it is every bit as expensive as the Boston Marathon for substantially, well, pun intended, shorter run. And, so uh, and I don't know about you, Mike, but for me, I was one of those big Wounded Warrior Project guys when they were out, and then people started telling me like, hey, I needed help. I was in a bad way, and I was told to call them, and they're like, hey, we can't help you. Or one of the things was, hey, my baby needs formula, my wife is sick, I'm stressed out, I need just some groceries, please. Well, we can't really do that, we'll send you like a snack box. Meanwhile, I mean, their sweatshirts were like $75, 6-7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They were expensive at the time, right? And I'm like, you know what? No, 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 no. You can't take people's money and not advocate for them when they need help. I mean, this is not like, hey, I want a new whatever. When it comes to hunger and shelter, we ought to move mountains, man. And they were like, this org, they were hundreds of millions of dollars they were getting. I mean, everybody was supporting them. So
Yep. Even the like the salute service, when you purchase one of those camo items, for your favorite NFL team, one of the four organizations that receives funding from that is Wounded
yep.
Warrior Project.
So
So they have, in recent years, done a lot better, I must say. Even during COVID, they were the ones who called me, and I was in two different programs with Wounded
oh
Warrior
really?
Project. One was like it was a monthly check-in. The woman's name was Goldie. She was such a sweetheart. Her husband had been a veteran, and she just wanted to be able to, to work with the community. So she started volunteering with Wounded Warrior, and what her role was just to check in with veterans once a month on a day that they chose, just to see that everything was going okay, and that you were doing well with everything, with the situation with COVID and everything. That they wanted to know that you weren't alone, and that there's somebody out there that you could talk to and reach out to at any time if you needed to. So that was a really cool program that I liked. And the other one was I had gotten reached out to because I was trying to figure out how to file for combat related special
Okay.
compensation. So if your injuries from the service are connected to overseas service, you can file for combat related special compensation, which takes the percentage that the VA gives you and gives you that percentage of your retirement along with your
Oh
VA
wow.
compensation because normally it's either or. And I know right now they're trying to pass the, I want to say, Major Richard Starr Act. I'm not 100% on that, but they were trying to pass an act which would allow veterans who are eligible for their retirement and VA compensation to be able to get both because there's so few that actually qualify for both. So they were trying to pass that to allow people to get both of those things at once simultaneously. But right now you can only get this the combat related special compensation, or there's another program that allows you to get a partial of your retirement as well as your VA pay. So there are programs that do allow it, but they are very difficult and it's a lot of paperwork to file and understand. And so Wounded Warrior Project, a gentleman named Bruce down in Texas, had helped me file that paperwork with the Department of the Army, and I was able to learn that. No, there's Dave Crenshaw. He was with me on that
Oh
first
wow.
tour, and he's let us know. Yep, it is that act, but there's no movement on it. So it's one of those things that sort of affects the 3 grand that folks get for the 100%.
So as I understand it right now, you're not accusing home base of any wrongdoing, but you're just getting some rumblings that concern you. You want to get some confirmation.
Yeah, I saw a letter go to one of the guys that was with me and Dave on that the tour in Iraq the first time. He got a letter that said basically, "Hey, you've been working with us here at home base, but now you need to transition into care in the community instead of staying here with our mental health team." So that kind of threw me for a loop because I've never seen such a letter for anybody that's in mental health treatment to say, "Hey, you know, go elsewhere." You know, basically, you know, I don't know if they're telling them that they've reached their peak with him or what, but all of a sudden I see this letter saying after X time, we need to send you elsewhere. So I wanted to make sure that you know is this a one-off situation or is this something that's happening to multiple people that are receiving care with the home base? Because like I said, that home base clinic is part of the Warrior Care Network. You've got Emory College, you've got Emory University, sorry, uh, home base Florida. They've got one down there where they do the training camp for the Red Sox. They've got another clinic down there, and then an organization in Arizona as well. That's part of the Warrior Care Network. And I just want to make sure that guys are receiving the care that's promised.
Well, that's a fair thing. I just, again, I'm not a licensed social worker. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but I can't imagine a scenario where you're going through treatment and you're not right, right? You're not okay, and you need the treatment. That any practitioner, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't see a scenario where it's like, hey, okay, we're done with you. Sorry, you've used up the 6 months, 3 months, 2 weeks, whatever. Go out into the world, little bird, fly away, and goodbye, see ya, leave you alone. And it's going to be, and if that's confirmed, all I can say is, we'll get in the Humvee together, man, and I'll help you fight this fight because, again, this is an organization that is vetted by the Commonwealth. They get funding from the Commonwealth. They get funding from other orgs. A lot of very important people give them a lot of money, and this seems odd. I mean, like I've never heard of home base ever. I've never heard of anybody doing that. Now, it's
Yeah,
the only
and like I
exception
said,
is if the patient veteran is not following the treatment plan or missing appointments. Like, right, if you miss what, like 3 appointments for my PT, if I missed 3 appointments the VA had the right to terminate the treatment. And to me, that was fair. If you missed your appointment, didn't reschedule, or didn't call in, or whatever, to me that's fair because you're obviously not committed, and there's no reason the VA should hold it up for you. So that I get. But if the person's been trying to work the program and they just need extra time, and you're going to boot them after 6 months, first, that sounds very unhome based like. But we need to confirm option, step two. And step three, if they're not, I don't care if we got a big or small voice, I don't care. Um, this is not going to stand. The good general has some explaining to do. Because when someone
Yep.
what
And
was
it
it like,
does.
Mike? Because you've referred people to home base before because you were confident in what they did, and it seems like even before we got on tonight that you were really upset, shaken about this because you read the letter.
Yep. So basically, when I, share something with somebody and want to say, hey, this organization's out there and they can help you with X, Y, Z, I want to make sure that it actually will help that person with X, Y, and Z. Because there's too many times and too many links when you go out there on the web looking for help from nonprofits or from, the government for help for veterans in need, that you click a link and it's a dead link, it's an expired program, it's something that doesn't actually do what they say they're doing. And, there's too many times that happens, and that often causes the veteran to get discouraged at seeking help
Right,
at all. And then, they're just either going to turn to, things that they know, whether it's, hitting the bottle or, other means of unhealthy, release from whatever stress they're, currently going through. And I just want to make sure that, folks that are out there aren't reaching that tipping point with an organization that I have sent so many people to. Because, with home base, it is one of those organizations that, I've personally been a patient there. It took me seeing 4 to 5 different psychologists before I finally got comfortable with the one I was seeing, to be able to open up and go through my history and go through the issues that I was currently handling. And once I got comfortable enough there, that's when I said, okay, this is the place that I need to go to, and this is a place I feel comfortable referring other veterans to. And I have referred at least a dozen other
wow,
local veterans to them because they do have great programs. One in particular, they've got a 2 week like inpatient program where you actually go to Charlestown and you stay at a hotel, and daily you'll go in and you'll work on different things. You'll basically do 2 years worth of sessions in 2 weeks, and they actually invite a spouse or somebody close to you to join you for the last couple of days, so they also can receive some information and learn how to work with you and your
gotcha.
disability. So yeah, so this is the letter that I got. As we discussed in the call, I will need to see you in person before I continue medications. We encourage you to work with care management, case manager, RN, primary care team to continue with assistance with care coordination. If you'd like to connect with supportive psychotherapy or psychiatric services close to home, please consider the following options. Here you go. We also discussed you'll be transitioning to a community provider in a 3 to 6 month period, but they can work with them until then. So they literally set a timetable for this veteran for when they're going to basically discontinue their care and the help that they provide. So to me, and how I've seen help work with mental health, there's not really a
Right,
timetable that a provider should be labeling or should be providing to the veteran, where each case is a case by case, and whatever means the provider can assist, whether it's equipping the person with tools, putting them to groups to be able to better understand things and work with other veterans, whatever that particular need is, it'll be different for each one. And to see a timetable set on somebody's care, it does seem like something that like the old VA would have done. Like back when I first came home, and I took like there's like a worksheet that you filled out. And it's like, all right, yep, you've got PTSD. but we don't have any appointments for 6 months to a year. So do you want to set something up now? And I was like, no, like 6 months to a year. I'll see you guys later.
Well, again, it's really unfortunate. They're highly regarded in the Boston community. They're enthusiastically supported. If I remember correctly, I think only the New England Center and Home for Veterans is the same size or bigger than home base in terms of revenue and fundraising dollars. But the center serves like 150 to 200 homeless veterans, on a routine basis. Every day is what I'm talking about. It offers other services. So, I can tell you I'm not putting any CHP on the spot, but if word got out that they were telling veterans when they showed up there that, hey, you can't come in, or hey, you've been here for 6 months, now it's time to boot you out when you're not ready to go out, there'd be questions asked. There'd be questions asked, and
Absolutely.
fortunately, if questions have to be asked, you can go to the uh, Executive Office of Veteran Services here in the Commonwealth and a couple phone calls, and we'll get some clarity real quick.
And you do see other organizations that have fallen into home base as well, like the organizations that does the flags on
Yep,
Boston
yep,
Common.
yep. I've
It
done
was
that,
like,
and that money raised to plant those. People don't understand that. I'm glad you brought that up. So, hang on, sorry. Oh,
no
sorry.
worries.
So, if
God
you're
bless you.
in the Boston area during the month of May, especially for Memorial Day weekend, you will go to the Boston Common and see it covered in American flags, and it's great. It looks really great. It's a really poignant thing to see. But what a lot of people don't realize is if those flags are put there by volunteers, and those volunteers, whether they're corporate volunteers, like a company has an affinity center or a nonprofit, whatever, or even an individual person, you pay for the privilege of putting a flag down in the common. It's not just show up and we'll plant flags. It's a paid activity, and that money goes to home base, and they raise a lot of money with that event. A lot of money.
Yeah, and that organization also used to do on September 11th. They would put together these backpacks that had hygiene products and things like that inside of it, extra socks, t-shirts, and they also would bring these backpacks to different homeless shelters for veterans. And so that way, when somebody would come to the homeless shelter, they would be able to get there and they wouldn't just have nothing with them. Here you go, here's some fresh hygiene products, here's a backpack to carry your things and keep things safe in. Because like for me personally, when I lived at the homeless shelter in Somerville, you go in there and you're given a wall locker and a small little lock for it, but nothing's really safe, and you're sharing a room with a person that you've never seen before or been around. So being able to have a bag that you can keep close to you with your personal items in it is a safety net that
Yep,
you can
yep.
have. But like, and then after a while, once you've been at the shelter for a time, you do get to move into a single room as they become available. But when you first start out there, you are sharing your living space with somebody else that you've never
Right.
been around before. So that is another thing that they were doing, and I'm not sure if that mission continues now that they're part of home base. But home base had successfully taken that organization underneath its wing, and now that's part of the home base program itself.
Well, all I can say is, let me know what you find out. Let me know if I can help you do some legwork if you want me to, make a couple calls. I'm here for you. I can certainly understand why this upsets you. And you're like we talked about before, you were clearly, troubled by this, Mike, and justifiably so.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, the last thing you want to do is tell a veteran, hey, go through the home based process, she'll be taken care of. And then you get a call, 3 months later saying, hey, they're kicking me out in 90 days. What do I do? It just, again, and I don't know the program. I don't know how mental health works, but I've never heard of a scenario where it's like, hey, you know what? Regardless of where you are in your treatment and your recovery or your whatever, you're gone in, 180 days. Get ready.
Yep. And then the other thing too, and there's Barry Steve's checking in. Good evening, Barry. And I just wanted to also, if Crenshaw's still out there, he would be a great contact for you, Travis. Dave's done a lot of work with his service dog organization. He is down in New Jersey, but he does a lot of advocating for his organization and would be great for you guys with Two Lives at Once to get in contact with.
Well,
So if
first
you,
of all,
I'll make sure to put a message between you
well,
guys.
I just connected it with you on LinkedIn. I don't know why we hadn't, done it before, but I'm just sending you a LinkedIn note now. It's pending. And then let me see if I can look up David Crenshaw. I don't see him. David Crenshaw, Master Sergeant, U.S. Army, former first responder, New York City Metropolitan.
Yes.
Dark Green Marine.
That is he. So,
Handsome devil.
well, how the setup was on my first tour with the 42nd ID, we had 2 platoons that were out of Chicopee, Mass, and the 3rd platoon in our company was actually in New Jersey. So when we got activated to active duty and we all met up at Fort Drum, all of a sudden, here's a platoon from Jersey getting merged in with our company. And it was like, at first, it was, the learning curve of getting to know all these people that had been, part of your company but weren't physically there. And then, these guys were great. Like each of our PSD teams were basically, it had, some of the guys from New Jersey, some of the guys from Mass. And it was such a great, divide that, I like how that wound up turning out because you had like the organic, like people from 42nd ID, they wound up in 1st platoon and they did like the corrections mission and they had the detainees in Tikrit. And then our platoon was 2nd and we had like 50-50. It was like volunteers from other companies that came over and then we had the guys from Jersey to be able to finish up our strength. And then 3rd platoon was all the Jersey guys with a couple Mass guys to fill in their ranks as like halfway through the tour you get like guys that come in to fill up the ranks, like the replacements. And those guys were doing like missions to and from like Tikrit down to like Abu G and like back. And they were bringing detainees and they were doing convoy escorts, things like that.
Well, again, I just let's do this right. Let's ask the right people the right kind of questions. Let's figure out.
Absolutely. So anybody out there's got any connection to currently or previously with home base receiving care as a patient, or anybody that had worked there prior just knows what's going on with the situation and them basically letting people know that they are now transitioning people to community providers in a 3 to 6 month period, but they and like just the way that they listed things, it's just basically they Googled, care providers here and then put it on there.
Well,
but they did include our Mass Help behavioral health helpline, though. That was nice.
Well, one of the things too is I'm looking on their website and I'm looking at the programs, and it's very interesting. The programs don't mention the treatment duration. It's just, here's an overview of the program. Now contact us to get care, and then you'll be in the intake process. So I'm not saying that's normal, but I'm also saying that's like not stated up front. I mean, to me, it'd be different if it was stated on the website, hey, this is a 3-month program, this is a 6-month program, and this is how we do it. Okay, well then that's one thing, but it's very open-ended in what they're saying. So again, the cool thing is for what you're trying to do is you shouldn't call that many people to get to the bottom of this. I mean, you call.
Absolutely. And like I said, when you first go into care there, like, you go in, you talk with a case manager, they set you up with basically a triad of care. You've got, a social worker, and then you've usually got a psychiatrist. And if you need be a psychologist. And then if you need be a psychiatrist, if you need medications on top of, the care that you need for, community care, help with assistance with different programs. That's what social workers there for. And then the psychiatrist, psychologist for therapy
Yeah.
sessions. So it's just, you get set up with that. And then as you work your way, you've got the two different people that you can call on or the case manager and say, this is, what's going on. How do I get assistance with this? So it is a good setup, and how everything was pre-COVID to how things are nowadays. Like with everything being remote, things are a lot different because you used to just have to go into the offices down in Charlestown, and like they've got a beautiful facility there. Like they've got like a gym that folks can use, and like it's like 2 floors, and like you go. The offices aren't designated for any particular person. You go in and you see it, like you sign out for that hour that you're with a person, and they've got like the blacked out windows and like the curtain on the door, and it's a very nice place, and it makes you're comfortable being there with your provider. And then just to see this happening to guys that are that are getting told the time limit, just that kind of sends up a flag to me. I just want to make sure that others aren't dealing with that.
Okay. Well, again, I'm here to help. You have you already have some contacts to call. You already have a plan. But I'm here to help or augment that plan if you need to. And then, it's unfortunate, but if you have to call somebody out, you got to call somebody out. I just, again, because I can't see how they are aligning to their purported mission statement if they're doing that. And I cannot understand how that is putting the veteran in a position to have a positive outcome in their treatment recovery if you cut them off.
And speaking of recovery, don't you have some sort of recovery personnel on Oscar Mike Radio
go
tonight?
for you, Mike. Yeah, I have part 2 of a 4-part series with U.S. Army Green Beret Ben Monette. He had alcohol problems, and that affected his career and personal life. And he got with Treehouse Recovery in Tennessee, and they're like a structured recovery option. And and this is what I'm thinking about. I'm like, wait a minute, it was not, hey, you're done in 3 months or 6 months. The program is there to get you right and then offer support after the program so you stay in that good place. So it was really an interesting take, which is why this is just so mind-boggling. I'm like, I know it's an email and maybe it was structured wrong, but it just really, really raises questions. So, yeah, that's Ben Monette on Oscar Mike Radio here in a couple minutes. And, like, share, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. And
yeah, so just to let you know, I'm going to try to do my best to cover up the personal information, but it is an actual official letter.
Oh, wow.
So it was a full official letter that was sent versus just being an email. So they literally sent him a documented letter. So I do have that letter from the person. Like I said, I just don't want to release people's personal information.
Well, I mean, when it comes to it, if we have to, we can print that out, redact that person's name, and somebody's got to speak to this. And again, the cool thing is there's a couple people over home base that you can call right away, and then you have the Executive Office of Veteran Services for the Commonwealth. I'm sure they'd be interested in taking a look at this and asking some questions to help you out. So, where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely. And was there any so we've got your YouTube. Where else can folks catch you
Facebook,
tonight?
Of course. We're on Facebook here in a couple minutes. Oscar Mike Radio, and we're on LinkedIn and then Spotify and Apple Podcasts, all the big podcast engines you can catch me on. But just come in, hang out, have a good time, and we're going to do this here. We're going to be mission flight here in a couple minutes.
All right. So we thank everybody for joining us tonight. We've got our next mission set up, and if you guys are around at 8 p.m. tonight, be able to check out, Oscar Mike Radio Live. If not, you're always welcome to download it afterwards, or view it on your preferred platform.
That's right.
And get those views up so Travis can get
there you go.
care.
At your leisure. We are resilient. We are WAR. Thank you very much for you, Mike.
All right, folks. Have a great night. We'll see